So this ship needs cannons. And so let's kind of go through the full process of creating some cannons that we can attach to it. For scale, our chap is in here. So it's not going to be overly large, but at the end of the day, we need cannons. This will be available to download on Patreon at the end. It'll probably look like whatever it looked like in the thumbnail. But having a look through Pure Ref, Spooky, you're welcome. Make sure you go out check out his channel. I've started compiling a few images of guns that I will reference. Obviously here we've got from the Blender Bros. So wonderful channel, go check those guys out. They've been around for yonks using like hard ops to create these. And then I've just started compiling some images on what I like. Now I like this 3 prong weapon. I think I might go 2. I have an idea about that one. But I do like this idea where we've got the main shaft through the middle and then either side. That gives it its rotation. I like that idea. And then, yeah, it will spin along that axis as well. So I do kind of like that idea. Definitely maybe, I do want to go 1. Let's just go 1, small one that's movable. And then we'll like go from there. So back over into Blender. I am going to probably try and trying to go as slow as possible, just so that we can, so you can understand everything that is happening. So screencast keys are on. And so probably for the first gun, we're going to put, I think, on top of here, and then we'll have subsequent weapons, probably one here, and then maybe some on the side. But once we create the first element, then we can produce it out a little bit further. So Shift S, cursor to world origin, and then I'm going to add in my cube, and I know that that is now in the middle. So let's just replace this. We're going to put the first weapon on the back here. So the first thing we're going to be doing is blocking it out. So kind of get the scale right. So what are we going to do? So if we kind of come down like this and scale on the y-axis, say SY to scale, SX to scale. That's a bit too big. So what do we got? I think that's still too big. So something like that. Let's go Shift D to duplicate, and we'll scale along the y-axis. And we'll scale this puppy up. Scale on the x-axis, so SX. And just trying to find something that looks what we're after. Let's actually bring this in. And then I can just go Shift D to duplicate, and we'll move it off to the side. I think this section here is a bit too large. So I'm just going to scale and along the X and the Y and put that in place. So I reckon that seems like a nice overall size, but now it's, we got to work and try and get it looking a little bit better. So first thing we'll do is we'll work on the shaft itself. Now that I am starting to think about, and when we go ahead and reference this, the 3 does look nice, but I do like this almost 2. I reckon we might go a 2. Let's go a top section, bottom section, and then a middle section. And then we will put some covering over the top and bottom, just like we've got kind of like in this image over here. I think we might go that route, because then that's a very simple way of adding details. But for now, we will just go with a kind of like 1 cannon that just shoots. So back into Blender. Right, that is not in the middle. So if I press N to bring my side panel over, I can come all the way up to item. And we want to make sure that this is in the middle on the x-axis. Here, this is a bit to the right, which is what we want. I can press Control C on the x-axis. Click on the other object. Let's go minus Control V. And now we've placed that there. Obviously, what would be easier is if I just delete that second one. I'm going to come in and select this. Let's go into the modifiers, add modifier, generate mirror modifier. Now it's mirroring along the origin point. However, I want it to mirror off the center point. I know that my glass here is in the middle. So now we've made it the offset off the glass. I mean, we could have used the cannon here, but when I build ships, I always pick one object that everything is mirrored off. So if I were to click on this, cylinder 008, this one here, cylinder 008. That's just kind of like a very simple way. And I know that glass is never going to change. I would like to think so. Let's go, this cannon idea. So what I'm going to do now is just expand a little bit. So by adding in edge loops, I can press Control R, and that gives it up extra. Or I can use mouse. Well, now I can use mouse wheel. Nope, let's do it beforehand. Alt R. Now I can use mouse wheel and add in more cuts. So that's what we've done there. Scaling along the x-axis. Yep. Nice and simple. Let's maybe go edge loop again with Control R. And then I'm just going to go Control B to bevel. Even though I'm not really beveling, I'm just adding in more geometry there. I think that's great. And then I'm going to delete those faces. So now when we select all these by holding Shift, I can go delete faces. And now we've got our top and bottom section. I do want to add in a cylinder that goes all the way through. So I want to select the center point. I'm just going to select the bottom face or the bottom edge, Shift S, cursor to selected. And I'm putting that there now. So when I go ahead and add in my cylinder and scale it down, I know that that is in the middle. Let's go R to rotate, X on the X-axis and 90 degrees. There we go. And so now when we go ahead and scale along the Y-axis, we can push this puppy back. And now we've got this inner tube in there. Now at the moment, everything is one object. Well, off the cannon here. I want the inside bit to be a separate object. And that'll be prevalent Y in a sec. I'm going to press P and separate by selection. So now we've got two separate objects. So if I go into edit mode by pressing tab, you can see now I'm not affecting that central barrel. That's the word. Now we spoke about it being a little bit like shielding. So what we're going to do now is just add modifier, generate, solidify modifier, and then I'm just going to increase how thick this is. Beautiful. We can see that it looks a little bit off here. If I turn on even thickness, it should clean it up a bit. So that's interesting. It doesn't seem to have, okay. We can see that this side here is shorter and then these kind of a lot thicker. And that's because of these back pieces. So if I were to delete these back pieces, delete F, and then we come back around to the front, pressing numpad 1. I hate you. I know why. So when we were scaling in object mode. So this is object mode, where we're looking at the entire object. When I press tab, I can now select vertice, edge, or face, 1, 2, or 3. This is edit mode. In object mode, we can see the scale of the object is 0.5 along the y-axis, 0.06 along the z, and 0.02. Now I want to apply that to make the scale 1. So if I go Control A and apply scale, we should see that these here clean themselves up. So these will become an even thickness all the way around. So Shift A, apply scale. That's right. That's because this is too thick now. So if we start bringing it back, 0.005, there we go. So now we have kind of like that there. Great. Love it. So happy with that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hold, go into edge mode by pressing number 2, Alt left click to grab this edge and just go GY and just pull that back ever so slightly. Yeah, nice. I like that. I like the look of that. That's great. Technically, we're still in the blocking phase, so let's leave this for now. And we have to remember that if we come back a little bit later and we're like, we want to change so there's dual cannons, that should be fine. So we'll just progress as we go and keep that. So let's go ahead now and work on this. So I really, really like this idea. I think that's great. We've got a bit of armor on the front. Makes sense. And then maybe, some vents or something coming off the back. I like this idea, and I reckon we will borrow it. Just having a look, what does the scale look like? What if we go into rendered mode? What is this looking like? I think we're going to have to go double. I think it just makes sense. But scale-wise, according to the ship, it looks great. So first things first, let's go ahead and maybe bring up this bottom face. So I'm pressing Z to change between wireframe, and C and Z. Pressing Z. Pressing Z to change to wireframe or solid mode. Let me just get rid of those arrows there, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So if you've gotten this far, can you just hit the subscribe button? Trying to get that 100,000 mark, and it would help tremendously. From here, we want a bit of an oval shape. So what I can do is I can just press, let's have a look at the scale. So we can see the scales are off again. So if I were to press this and go Control B to do a bevel, it actually looks fine. I hate you. It's not right. Let's apply the scale. Control A, apply scale. And if we do B now, there we go. All right, it does. It looks much better. Now it looks like 45 degrees, where before it wasn't 45 degrees. But I actually like that shape there. That looks actually pretty good. Let's go with that. So I'm going to go Control B to do a bevel. And I'm going to add in, increase the middle mouse. So we'll bring it up. And you can see how that has now curved up. Right click to cancel that. Let's select both of these. And I'm going to leave that bottom one there. Let's go Control B to do a bevel. And then we're just going to round that off. How's that looking? Looks a little bit like a tank, in all honesty. That's fine. I'm going to go select this face, Shift D to duplicate, and then press X to move along the X-axis. In this image here, I like how we've got our main body, and then we've got it popping off the body there. So that's what we're going to do here. So we need to make this smaller. If I were to press I to do an inset, S to do an inset scale, it is accurate. Not really, because if we were to push this back, we can see that it's scaling. Over here, it's a bit thicker. So I'm going to go Control Z, Control Z. I want that uniform scale. So what I'm actually going to do is press I to do an inset. So now we've got this shape, which is now equal distance around. Alt left click to get the edge, and I'm going to delete the edge there. I'm going to select this piece. Let's go E to extrude. And then to round the edge, let's just do a Control B to do a bevel. That is way off, which is fine. That's because of the scale. So if you're ever getting kind of like things that look a little bit wrong, there's that option. So let's go now Control A and apply the scale. Now when we go Control B, it's very uniform. Excellent. Awesome. Let's now bring that back in, and we can pick a spot. That's kind of cool. We can see that we've got a bit of an error here, which is okay. I'm just going to go GG to move along the line. So if I were to press G, you can see we move it in all axes. But I'm going to press GG to move it along the edge. GG. Just trying to make that a little bit equal. And I can see we need to do it here as well. So GG, GG. Let's actually close that up a bit. Just trying to get nice, even lines through this all. So you can see that looks okay. I think we can even bring this up a little bit. There we go. Nice and equal. It's not bad. I don't know how I feel about this section. I think we're going to have to clean that up. Future Marco problem. I'm just going to be like flipping around everywhere because technically we're still blocking. We're not really putting too much details in. So think of it like that, because if I were to now come in, do all my paneling and so on and so forth, all the micro details, and then we work on another section and it doesn't join up, we've wasted quite a bit of time. So with that, I'm just going to jump onto here, Shift S, cursor to selected. Might as well keep the origin points for the cannon the same. I just want to add in a cube. I'm going to scale that down, and I am in edit mode right now. Kind of want to put something in like this, as if it's a bit supportive. I think that looks pretty good. Let's put an edge loop here with a Control R. Suck this out a bit, GY, so I'm moving along the Y-axis. Select the edge and GZ. There we go. So it's almost given it a little bit more strength, which is great. I like that. But I think we're going to have to go two cannons. Dang it. Which is not too bad. So If I were to now select this, shift left click, so I've selected our cannon. Now we've already mirrored an object, and that's this one here. So if I shift left click on this object, I can now come over into the modifiers, click the drop down, copy to selected. So the selected object, which is this one, I can see that with mine, and the other selected stuff. So the yellow one's the primary, the orange one is everything else that we've selected. We're going to copy what we've got selected as the primary to everything else. So if I were to go copy to selected, nice. I can now go GX, move to the side, and now we've got these two cannons, which doesn't look too bad. I think that we could bring this in, make it a little bit thinner, and we select everything and bring it all back. And then eventually we do something like this, that it just comes in the middle, or even a different shape maybe. We'll come back to that. So this is the primary section of the cannon, and I think everything's going to rotate maybe from here. I'm starting to think a little bit that it might be too... It doesn't look right, which is fine. We haven't spent too much time on this, and that's the big, really important thing that I want to say. Block it out. Doesn't look right. Actually, not sure. I don't know what it is. Is it this bit down here? Because I think the cannon itself looks nice. And so I'm talking this through because this is kind of like my design process. We can always come back into the reference. We can see that this is very vertical. Might actually be adding in parts on the back might be enough of a fix. So let's try that. So let's come over into here. Maybe what we need to do is maybe just extend this back around. Maybe that's what it needs to be done, just to close this section off. Now, we don't have any geometry down here because we beveled it earlier. So what I'm going to do is I can just select... get in here. I could probably do an edge loop through there with a Control R, and we've got that. And then from here, I can select these two vertices and press J to do kind of like a cut. We can see now that if I come inside on and into wireframe, it's not straight. I think we want it straight. Actually, maybe we actually cut this. Okay, maybe we cut the bottom as well. Let's do this. I'm going to press select. Okay, sorry. I'm going to press C for like this selection. Click, left click, GY. How's that looking? I think that might be looking a little bit better. We want to now maybe make another cut. So maybe here. And I'm going to select that and that, J. And while we're at it, no, we'll leave it like that. Back to this. This is what we're talking about. So I want this section here to be straight. Actually, is it straight? No, it's not. It's a bit off. We are going to be looking along the y-axis. So I'm going to come up here and select Y local. And then we're going to select this vertice, Control V, and Control V. So now that is straight down. We can see that this is in a bit of an angle. Let's come here. I'm going to go Control C on Z, Control V, oops, and over here as well, Control V. So now that is a straight line as well. So what we can do now is I'm going to select all this and E to extrude. You can see how we're overlapping with the other side. Easy fix. Come over to clipping, G, X now. Now it's going to be stuck together. We have to though. On the inside here, we can see that there's some faces. We want to get rid of them. Delete faces. Nice. All right. We cook them with gas. I like this. So this is where, yeah, we can start doing some things. Okay, I like that. I like that. That's looking great. Here, let's go Shift S, cursor selected. Oh, that's off center. Shift A, I'm going to add in a cube. I'm going to add in a cube. Let's make that X0. So now it's in the center, and I'm going to scale that down. And then we said about kind of like a bit of a vent. E to and we want it to almost be maybe like a counterweight. See, that looks like yuck, doesn't it? Which is fine. If I come over here onto the left-hand side, and if you don't have that, we can press T. So T brings up that menu. N brings up the right-hand menu. I can open up the spin tool. So this is all our arrows. And I want this face to spin kind of like this way. So shift right click will set our 3D cursor. And now I can use my red button. Now you can see it is rotating based off the 3D cursor. So if I were to put it up here and we rotate, you can see it's much bigger. Obviously, if we come down here, much smaller. So I reckon here is pretty good. Let's spin that up, maybe to about there. Do we want it a nice smooth? I don't like that. What I will try and do, let's go Control Z to undo. Whoop. What happened there? Brought it back. So we're going to hold Control to snap. What's our angle? I'm trying to find. There we go. So in the menu here, 45 degrees, 12 steps. I'm going to go like 3 steps. Yeah, I like that. I think that looks good. It's a little bit more rough. What we can do as well is I can, in face mode, press number 3, Alt left click to grab this edge, Shift Alt left click to grab that edge. I'm going to press E to extrude, and let's put that back in with right click. Now I can press Alt S to scale along the normals. Interesting. Let's do I to do an inset, something like that. And then we can spin this back in, holding Control, it'll snap to every 5 degrees, E to extrude. So now we kind of have this, like open section. Don't like that. Control Z. Let's just go E to extrude and bring it in, and then we'll make a bit of a cap. I do feel like this is too harsh of an edge. So Alt left click all our edges, like our corners. Let's do a Control B to do a bevel, and we'll do a few cuts. Ooh, that looks nice. Right click auto smooth. Interesting. I like that idea.